Welcome to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. This is the Q Dog up in the solo studio today, and I am just rocking out all by myself. You know, the thought just crossed my mind that maybe I should sing that song, but I don't know all the words, and I'm not a good singer, so I'm not going to do it. So, hey, if you're wondering if things sound a little different, well, they sure do. I am in the studio by myself today, as I had mentioned earlier. Coach Rita is going to be out for a few episodes, handling some things. I know that she just got back from Ireland, and man, did she love it. And I just I'm excited to get on the microphone here and gobble up all the time because I got some things that I want to share with you guys. And as always, I am so thankful that you're listening. It means a great deal to me that you take the time to listen, and then hopefully you're sharing some of these things with your fellow brothers out there so that we as a man group can start to improve in every area of our life that we see fit. And I just got done doing, 28 videos in a row, and I don't necessarily want to time this, but I do want to talk about it. I want to talk about setting goals, and whatever those goals might be in your life. And what's important is, if I just jump right into it here, what's important is learning how to develop self-confidence. And one of the people that I'm listening to like crazy right now, I hear him actually say a lot of the same things that I say and I believe, and that's probably why I'm connecting so deeply with his podcast, is Ed Mylett. This guy will knock your socks off. He is the perfect level of intensity, and he may not be everybody's, flavor per se, but I just love what the guy brings to the table. And he does some interviews that you can really tell that he's a man that's in the moment. He's a man that looks for what he can, obviously what he has to offer other people. That's his heart. But he just absolutely loves to learn from people. We're talking about a guy that's been and seen a whole lot of things. He's made hundreds of millions of dollars, but any guest that he has on, he's intently listening so that he can pick up a nugget, and those nuggets he can take and add to his game so that he can just become better at what he does. And I think that's something that is very important for us as men, as a part of this podcast. If you're listening, it's because you want things to get better. It's because you want things to be better. And it's kind of the code that we live by here, which is, how good do you want your life to be? How good do you want your marriage and your relationships to be? How good do you want your career? Because really, it's truly up to you. It depends on what mindset you're willing to embrace, what changes you're willing to embrace. And as I've listened to Ed Mylett's podcast, he said some things that have been extremely, extremely life-changing for me, what we call upgrades or game changers on this show. So if you want to pause real quick and go check him out, it's Ed Mylett, Mylett. And one of my goals on this episode is to help you game plan for some of the things that you've heard, but also to help you game plan for the future. And the reason I would love for you to subscribe to his podcast is because I'm finding a tremendous amount of value in his solo podcast, some of the things that he gets on and he just talks about, and then the guests that he has, that he brings to the table. It's some of the best that I've heard. I thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, I love, obviously, one of the biggest podcasts out there is also Joe Rogan. And that guy, man, he has some fantastic guests, and they sit for 2 or 3 hours, and they just chew the fat, man. They just get it out there. Ed Mylett is definitely focused around telling people stories, but also offering you ways to better yourself. So he has a book called Max Out, and that's his thing. His thing is Max Out. It meets up quite greatly with what we even do on this show, and I didn't really ask Ed's permission to talk so much about him on this episode or anybody else that I'm going to mention. This is just something for us. And we would love to hear actually what you're listening to, what feedback you're getting. What are you filling yourself with? what's good, what's good, my man. What are you filling yourself up with? One of the things that really helped me, and I heard it quite a long time ago, and then Coach Rita brought it up, and then I heard Ed Milet say it, is things in life are not happening to you. Things in life are happening for you. And that's just a complete and total mindset upgrade. It's a game-changing mindset upgrade because it gives you a fresh perspective that you take away the why me syndrome. And it goes from the why me syndrome to the how me. Like, how can I get through this? What opportunities can I make out of this? How can I use these situations as an opportunity to grow? One of the things that that I developed as a part of my philosophy is saying that, whatever the situation is, it's not forever. It's just for now, and I can definitely get through this. So I encourage you, if you don't have a daily routine or a daily mantra of things that you do to keep yourself in the right headspace, then I think it's time for you to decide, what you can do. Another thing that, Ed Milet was talking about, and so it's things are not happening to you, things are happening for you, but he also talks about the beauty of taking control of your day from the beginning. And I thought that was something that would be great to share with our audience, and that's, 10 to 30 minutes, first thing in the morning, no phone, just sitting, whether it's meditating or just sitting quiet, just putting your thoughts on what your theme is for 2019. So what I did, I just started immediately the first time that I heard it. And I think it's very beneficial for us to just sit quiet, think about what's ahead of us, think about the theme for you for this year. And my theme for this year is prepare to be amazed. And I mean, for me, it has been amazing thus far. I mean, at this point of the show, we're steaming right ahead towards 500 downloads. We're being listened to in 10 countries, and we're growing. It's like every day we're growing just a little bit more. And I know it's not going to be long before our audience, before the number or the magnitude of our audience grows like exponentially. And then the message will be getting out. And that message is, like we talked about, how good do you want things to be? How good do you want your relationship to be? So if I could add anything, to the Ed Milet resource, it would be to get his podcast. I know that on Instagram he does a daily video where he'll talk and he'll ask you to throw down some max out, become part of the max out community. And he goes a long way to communicate with his audience, and he will build you up. And in turn, you'll turn people on to this podcast and what we're doing on Facebook and what I'm doing on Instagram. And then you can turn them on to the Ed Milet as well, Instagram and podcast. And that'll give you some commonalities, some things to talk about with your circle of friends or your circle of guys that maybe you talk about or you discuss. How the heck am I going to get better than I am or than I was yesterday? Because truthfully, that's what you measure yourself against. You can get into that trap of measuring yourself against other people, but truthfully, the way to true happiness and fulfillment is to decide daily that you want to be a better man than you were yesterday, and grade yourself against who you were yesterday, and making sure that your vision for your life, that the impact that you want to make on those around you, that lines up with, what your purpose is in this life. So, recently we got an email, and I was reading the email, and the guy was talking to me. It was a guy that emailed in, and he was kind of talking throughout the email about how he was putting together some of the strategies that we kind of put out in the podcast, and how he felt like it wasn't as successful as it should be, and he was kind of losing his motivation. And that is completely understandable. I mean, it's understandable to learn some really, really good, exciting, life-changing information. It is fantastic. But guys, like we talked about, and it's like no harm, no foul, because I'm like the person that is more guilty of this than anybody I know. But the thing we have to remember is that change starts at home. It starts with us. So our motivation is a choice. Motivation is a daily choice. You wake up in the morning and you decide to be motivated. There are days when I get up when I just absolutely am not motivated, but I have to make a decision to get motivated because I made a commitment to myself. I made a commitment to myself that I would get better every single day. So no matter what other people's reactions are, you decide daily to be motivated and to remain motivated. And sometimes you do need an outside party. Maybe you need to call, that person that you talk to, that every time you talk to them, they're up. You know what I'm saying? They're up. So you call them to kind of grab some of that energy, and then you stay up. But do not allow yourself to become, for your motivation to dwindle because you're not getting the responses that you think you should from the outside world. What we're doing first, like we started with this podcast, what we're doing first is we are taking personal responsibility. That's what we're doing. And these techniques and what we're discussing and how we're changing, it starts at home. It starts with us. It starts with the conversation that you're having in your head before you get home with your wife, like kind of pre-planning the argument, getting yourself fired up before you even show up, right? So what we want to do is we want to take these techniques and we want to apply them to our life first. Because if we can start to transform the man that we are, if we can start to really redesign the philosophy that we live by, that'll help us. That'll help us to remain motivated because we know what's at stake. And what's at stake is simply this. It's the goal we've set for how good we want our life to be. And we don't want to let anybody influence our motivation. And that's hard. Look, I'll be the first to tell you that is extremely difficult. If you are surrounded, whether it's at work or whatever the case is, you're surrounded with people that lean to the negative side and have that mindset of, well, this is the way I am because it's the way I've always been. And they can't see past how they've always been to see that there's any opportunity for change. Those people, man, they can straight wear you down. I'm not living in fantasy land. I get it. Those types of people and personalities, they can just wear you down. That's why you've got to find and decide on that motivation within you. That's where it begins. It's the motivation within. You do not allow anybody to influence that in a negative way. So it's a decision. It's just a decision to remain motivated. That's what you do. You remain motivated. I remain motivated because I know the ultimate purpose for my motivation. And that's to measure that how good do you want to be? How good do you want your life to be mentality? So we have to move forward. And yeah, there are days where it's harder than other days. There are days where circumstances try to redefine who I am and what direction I'm going. But that is not something that I allow to happen. I might take a gut shot from life and have to take a knee, have to take a standing 8 count. But once that 8 count's done, I'm coming out swinging. I'm coming out swinging because I know what's at stake. I say all the time, and it's something I'm going to say for the rest of my life, that we have to live on purpose. We have to be intentional about the way that we are operating. We have to be intentional about the way that we live our life. We have to be intentional about the way that we speak. We have to be intentional about the way that we proceed at work and at home. So to me, the way I remind myself of that is I like to use little phrases, and one of my key phrases is to remember to live on purpose for a purpose. And if you don't know what your purpose in this life is, what your higher calling for humanity is, it can be hard to remain motivated. It can be hard to stay up because you don't know exactly what's at stake. So I would encourage you, if you don't know what your purpose is, there's some exercises that you can go through that will really help you define what your purpose is in this life. My purpose is simply to enhance humanity. and to be the expression in the moment that humanity needs, to inspire you, to motivate you, to help come alongside of you and help you believe that you can be better than you are right now, that your life can be better than it is right now. And let me tell you, you hear my words now, and you hear me talking about people that get me pumped up and about my mindset and how I change my personal philosophy and those types of things. And if the first thing or second thing that comes to your mind is, yeah, but you get a case of the yabbits, as I talk about, then you are obviously ready for a mindset upgrade. Because if you're too busy thinking of what you can't do, that'll stand in the way of what you're willing to do. Maybe you cannot do this like me, okay? That's totally fine. But what you can do is you can decide to be willing to open your mind up to improve yourself. You can shift your thinking from I can't do this or this is the reason I can't to I'm going to be willing. I'm going to be open for the opportunity to change the way that I think. I'm telling you, it all comes down to willingness. It all comes down to willingness. So just for a second, ask yourself, am I willing to change, or am I giving a bunch of excuses on why I can't? There. That's enough time for you to think about it. Sometimes you just got to be that real with yourself, And I kind of love this open mic approach because I can just give you a minute to think about how you're thinking about your life. I can encourage you. I can try to motivate you through my words, but unless you're willing to receive those words, unless you're willing to put some of these plans into action, then you're just going to, what they say, you're just going to keep circling the mountain. And who has time for that? Life is short. Time is running. We got to get at getting. We got to get down and get busy with changing our life so that we can impact people in our life positively. So yeah, we're talking about staying motivated. We're talking about living on purpose for a purpose. Make sure when you're kind of designing the game plan for what you want to do, line out your day. Line out how you start your day. This is how my day starts. I'll get up and I'll hit that 10 to 12, 15 minutes of just quiet time so that it's just like an action to take control of the way my day starts. Because, you can really only control what you can control. Focus on the things that you can affect. After that, I'm going to crush a shower. I'm going to get some water. I'm going to kiss my wife. I'm going to head out the door. I'm going to go on my way to work. And because I have a commute, I have the luxury, if you will, of putting on something that's motivational. So I'll put on a motivational video that I listen to. I'll put on a motivational podcast. I'll put on a motivational book, something that motivates me to challenge me for the first part of the day. Because if I start out with challenging my thinking on the day, that will just encourage me to get out there and to get moving, get down to business. Then I'll throw on some music. After about 30 minutes, I'll throw in some music, and I'll just start to get pumped up. And what I'm doing is I'm like preparing myself, because the job that I'm in, typically what we're doing, I would say probably a quarter to a third of what we do is emergency based. So people in the construction industry are having emergency issues. They're needing things right now, and we don't always have it right now. And you can be dealing with some people that are short-tempered because they have crazy situations going on. So if you're not in the right mindset, you can start to take those things personally, and then you can kind of fire back at them like they're inconveniencing you, right? And I'm just talking about my experience. So for me, anytime a customer's coming in, I'm telling our team, we exist for people, for situations like this. If there were never any problems, part of our business wouldn't be here. So we're happy that they're here. And what I as a leader need to do is make sure that my mindset is like continually in the right spot. My mindset is continually in the right mode, so that when these situations come up that try to knock you off course, you know how to react to them. You know how to respond. You know that you can be the cool face in the midst of chaos and panic. So I like to get my mindset on early in the day, like to start the day by taking control of it, and then what I fill my mind with. I do not fill my mind with the news in the morning, because that is not what I want to be thinking about all day long. I want to be thinking about what's going to grow me, what's going to challenge me, what's going to motivate me, and how I can impact the lives of those people that I'm around at work and at home. So, my recommendation is look at how you start your day. Is it something that benefits you, or is it something that's stale and mundane? Could you benefit from an upgrade in how you start your day? And that's why I'm just talking to you a little bit now about game planning. What is your game plan for the day? What's your game plan for the week? What's your game plan for the month? What's your game plan for the quarter? What's your game plan for the year? What's that theme that you're living this year for? So that when you look back, you can look and say, hey, I accomplished my goals. And those goals may not be, exclusively pertaining to your marriage, your relationship. Hopefully they start with personal goals for you to challenge yourself. Where to start? Well, where to start is where we've already talked about, and that is with your mindset, with your thoughts, and with your daily routine. So game plan there. How do you strategize? What I like to do is I like to take people that I admire that are successful. I like to listen to what they say and observe how they live in the public eye. And I ain't saying that everybody's perfect, but what I am saying is simply this. I like to model myself after what I believe to be successful. I like to model myself after what I believe to be genuine, authentic, and impactful in a positive way. So that's what I'll do, and that's how I strategize who I want to become. That's why I like listening to Ed Milet. It's such a good thing. It's a good thing to find those podcasts that challenge you to think differently. Maybe it's somebody, there's The Look and Sound of Leadership is another fantastic podcast if you work in leadership. They give you stories, they give you ideas, they give you concepts of how to look at things constructively, and it helps you in your personal life. It really does. So, what we got to do is we have to really maintain our vision for where we want to be, for what we want to do, and how we want to get there. And that comes down, finally to, like we talked about, that comes down to ensuring that you know what your purpose is. What is your goal? What is your vision for who you want to become? Because life is truly about what you are becoming. If you are able to sit down and game plan, just take a few minutes to a half an hour, and write down, think, if I had absolutely every single thing that I wanted to do in the morning, if I had my way about it, what would that look like? So write about the best, and then start to negotiate what you can do now with what your current situation is in life. And quite simply, that'll be something that'll help you see. At least you'll have an idea. You'll have it written out. You'll make your mind start working for you instead of against you on how you can get this perfect morning to start. I'll leave you with a couple of tips here on how to find your purpose, and it's something that I did when starting this podcast, because I had a bunch of different ideas about a podcast to start. I had lots and lots and lots of different ideas, and some of those ideas remain till today, but I wanted to look and say, what has been the biggest impact in my life over the last 10 years? And it was upgrading my marriage. It was improving my marriage, and I'm always always talking about it. It comes naturally to me because it's had such an impact on me. And it hasn't been, it hasn't been rainbows the whole time. There's hard situations. Like you go back to the podcast, you listen, there's hard situations out there. But it's about willingness to conquer those things. It's about willingness to change and to move forward. It's about willingness to transform the way you think and how your mind operates. So that's exactly what I decided to do. And when I thought about it, it's like, you know what? I think myself and my journey could really impact some people's lives and change the way they go about their marriage. Because we all, when we get married, we have this idea about how things are going to be, right? And it doesn't always, 5 or 10 years in, maybe 1 year, 2 years in, it doesn't line up with how we thought it was going to be. My wife and I did an educational marriage class before we ever got married, and it was pretty cool. And the class started out really full, and then they started talking about red flags, and they were bringing up red flags in people's lives that they maybe didn't face before they got married, or they weren't facing because they just figured they were going to work themselves out. And by the time the class was over, when we graduated the class, I don't even know if there were half the couples in there as when it started. It was a trip. And they brought us some red flags for us. But even with that, we still had mountains to climb in our marriage. And unless it was both of us being willing to do so, I don't think, I know our marriage would not be as fantastic as it is today, but it came down to what we were willing to do. And I cannot emphasize that enough. I can't even get away from it in this open mic podcast here on doing some game planning, because I just believe if you're willing, I'm a product of willingness. Let's just say that. I am absolutely a product of willingness. And you can be too if you're willing to give it a try, if you're willing to change your mind, if you're willing to challenge your thought process, if you're willing to remain motivated no matter what life throws at you, if you're willing to have a game plan for when your motivation tries to take a step back, if you have a contingency plan to make sure you remain motivated. Chances are, if you're listening to this, you are a leader, because I think with myself and Coach Rita and the way that we go about our podcast, it attracts leadership. So it's important to me to do some of these open mic podcasts so that you can just know where I am in the heat of the moment and what the current hashtag mood is. So I want to hear from you on your game planning. How do you start your day? I want you to challenge me so that I can get better. As much as I've learned, I've still got tons to learn when it comes to this game called marriage, and I'm always looking for ways to improve and upgrade my experience. So let me know how you go about your day, because I would love to add some of your game plan that you're using and that's successful to my repertoire. All right, so to get to that purpose gig I was talking about, there's something called the 5-day passion exercise. And I got to tell you, I started doing that for some of the podcasts too, because there's some things that I want to lay out, or some things I want to roll out for the audience. That's going to make your Man vs. Marriage podcast experience even better. Great things coming up with us. So what I want to do is give you this exercise that I've used a couple times, and it's like a 5-day exercise. So if you have a journal, you want to just line out a small block of this 5-day exercise. It'll be 5 straight days, okay? It'll be 5 straight days, and here's what you're going to do. You're going to open that journal. You're just going to draw a line right down the middle of the page, the first page, and just put day 1 at the top. And then on the left, you're going to write down every single thing that you can think of that you're passionate about. I mean, everything. Whether it's cooking, whether it's, gym time, health health and fitness, health and wellness. Maybe you're an accountant and you're passionate about numbers. Who knows what you're passionate about? There's any number of things. And then on the right-hand side of the page, on the other side of the line, you're going to write down what you believe you're an expert in. So for me, on one side of the page, one of my passions is inspiring people, so inspiration. One of my passions is motivation, so I put motivation down. One of my passions is being healthy, being well, being fit, and eating right. So I put that down as a passion. So then on the other side of the page, I feel like I'm an expert in motivating people. So I wrote down, motivator as part of my expertise. And what you're going to do is just write out every single thing that you can think of. And then you're going to do the same thing on day 2. So you'll go to the next page, draw a line right down the middle, and you'll write day 2 at the top, and you'll just start from the top. And you're going to write a lot of the same things that you did the day before, okay? You're just going to do that. So just write down everything you can think of, even the stuff you thought of the day before, and ultimately, you're going to come up with 1 or 2 more that you didn't think of. And then you're going to do the same thing for your expertise. And then you're going to do that for 5 days in a row. Once you get that done, pick say 4, 5, 6 people, email them, and these are people that you trust to speak into your life. Email those people and say, hey, when you think of me, what words come to mind? And maybe you have some people that might be sarcastic and may get at you and make something funny or say something funny. But even so, have those people email you back, and I hope they're people you trust, people that build you up, not people that are negative and tear you down. I mean, sometimes we all need a little bit of honesty, some straight, hard-hitting truth. But these are people that you allow to speak into your life because they see you, they see the direction that you're going. So then once you get those, when you start getting those things back, you're going to go back to day 1, and you're going to circle things on the left and on the right that would seemingly go together. And so you'll circle your passion, and you'll connect it to one of your expertise. And through this, you're going to find out really what is there deep inside that you really want to do. And that you'll go and you'll do that through day 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then inevitably, you'll get some feedback from those people that you asked to say, hey, when you think of me, what comes to mind? What's 5 words that come to mind when you think of me? And you'll take that and you'll kind of box it up with whatever your passion, your expertise is, and then you can start to hone in on who and what your passion is, and then you can start game planning your life to go in that direction. Hey, maybe you're a person who's already there. Fantastic. How do we grow and get better? Maybe you're a person that's never really even thought about it, but you're ready for a change. Excellent. And then reach out to us and let us know what you came up with. What did you come up with? And how can we help you to build upon that? So with that, I'll say, check us out, baby. Email us at coach@manvsmarriagepodcast.com. That's coach@manvsmarriagepodcast.com. And truthfully, that's where we like to keep it, with the more personal things. But we would love for you to check out our Facebook page. Go and be a member of that. Like it, share it. It's facebook.com/MVSM podcast. The MVSM stands for Man versus Marriage. Oh, yeah. I bet that was enlightening. So check that out. Get at us. You can check me out on Instagram. You can check Coach Reed out on Instagram. My Instagram is Quincy_Moran, and you'll find me there. Let's connect there. Let's start doing this journey together. Let's get involved. What do you think about that? That's going to wrap up this episode today. I have no idea how long this episode is because my garage band is counting in bars and beats. I don't know what 1048 means, but hopefully it means something good. So this has been one of those open episodes. I don't know what I'm going to call it, open mic or whatever the case might be, but just for me to get some of my thoughts and ideas out there for where my current experience is here in this life. And I'd love to hear back from you on where you're at. So check us out. Until next time, this is the Q Dog from Man vs. Marriage, the podcast, and we will be back soon.